JD here, and as you can see, we are finally back. And I know it's been quite some time, but I'm very pleased to say that I will be back making regular content again, especially from next Monday when the F1 24 game officially releases. I'll be back to making pretty much almost daily videos, so something I've been looking forward to for quite some time. But in today's video, as you can see by the title, there are some things that we definitely do need to discuss, and I think just getting straight into it, I am very concerned of what I've seen of this preview build of F1 24. Just to clarify, I have not played this build because it's only available on PC, and there is still 4 days to which things can change, but most of the time when there's been a preview build, this is pretty much the game that we will be getting on release. And always, please let me know what your thoughts are after seeing all the F1 24 gameplay footage. I've put a couple video links in the description down below because I can't actually show any of the footage here since I haven't played or used the preview build myself. I'll probably be upsetting Codemasters and EA if I did. But there are a couple of videos from the likes of Alex Gillen, Formula Owen, who I think do a really good job of actually showcasing what we're going to be talking about in today's video. And my oh my, where do we even start with this? And yeah, from the beta, I already had quite big concerns. I know I wasn't alone in this in terms of the handling, which is what we'll be focusing in this video. Supposedly Max Verstappen, among other drivers, have been giving quite a big input into the F1 24 game. And actually, in a way, I can kind of see what feedback they took from Max Verstappen. He typically likes a very pointy car, and this is what we're seeing in the F1 24 gameplay. And even if you turned off the audio and someone didn't even provide feedback or explain what their thoughts were, you could just see the way the car is turning into the corners. It's almost like you're driving a controller. And I myself was a competitive controller player before I jumped on the wheel for about 7 to 8 years. I actually qualified for F1 esports using the controller, so I feel like I've got quite a high amount of experience. And yeah, the car is just unbelievably twitchy from the front, to the point where most competitive drivers have to raise their wheel rotation or the steering ratio up to 500 degrees in order to combat this. When I tested the game in its production phase many years ago, one thing that really surprised me was actually Codemasters mainly test the game by using a controller. And from watching this video, or the videos I put in the link in the description, it's almost like you are driving one. The main features of being on a controller and kind of the pros and cons of being on a controller is that you can't go full lock to lock. It kind of prevents you from going full lock, because if you had full access to the steering axis and ratio with the controller through a thumbstick, you'd basically be doing a 360 all the time. So the faster you're going, the less lock you can do. And sometimes that's actually a good thing, because with the wheel, where you have access to any amount of lock you want, you can go 360 pretty much any time you want. The downside of that is that sometimes you maybe go over the limit, and that's going to probably induce a little bit of understeer, or quite a bit of understeer, and sometimes a lot of oversteer. So the controller, same with the traction as well, which is kind of why the controller players always have a bit of an inbuilt traction assist, since you're only using a trigger with your finger. If you had the full range of the engine like you do with the pedal when using a wheel, you'd probably be spinning left, right and center. And with the controller, if you kind of stand still, don't move at all, and you go full lock left, full lock to right, you'll notice that it will kind of pause in the middle ever so slightly. And again, that is just kind of the inbuilt steering assist ratio kicking in. And from what I've seen from this footage, or the footage that you will be watching, that's what's happening when you're on a wheel. So I don't know if they have tested this game primarily with controllers, but the steering ratio is just so sensitive. So it's like playing F1 23. Most people typically play between 300 degrees, 360 degrees rotation, 360 being whatever you do, the game is mirrored. The lower you go down on the rotation, the less you have to do, or whatever you do, is going to be done much, much more in the game. So that's why sometimes you see people within esports, competitive drivers, or maybe if you're doing a track like Monaco, you'll probably be lowering that wheel rotation down to 300, maybe even 280, and everything becomes a lot more sensitive. It's going to turn a lot more in the game, but it's going to be a lot harder to be precise and more controlled. And that's kind of exactly what you're seeing here, but it's almost like you're playing on like 180 degree rotation out the box when it's set to 360 in game. So a lot of people have been playing this preview build, they've had to actually increase it all the way up to 500 degrees, and this is something you're probably going to have to do on release of the game. Something I will probably be testing and been doing videos on next week. I would probably be setting it to 500 degrees, and it just makes the handling model, for me, when you're pushing close to the limit at least, not enjoyable at all. And yeah, the steering ratio is just very sensitive, very snappy, making it almost impossible to be smooth and precise. It seems like there's far too much weight on the front, causing extreme over rotation, and then the back just fires around, which leads me to the next thing. This game is kind of like you can do almost anything with this handling model, and it's not going to punish you. It almost seems easier than ever to save the car, where I've seen some footage where people have been completely sideways and still managing to recover the car. It's something that really shouldn't be possible and doesn't really look satisfying. And I think if you look online in the community, the feedback of what other people are saying, every single esports driver I've seen hasn't enjoyed this handling model so far. And this is a huge, huge concern moving forward, because F123, I think the best thing about it was that it was kind of like F122, but with a much better natural, realistic handling. Now this feels like, this is coming from someone who doesn't expect the game to be a full sim, and I don't even care if it is or not. But it feels like we've gone so much more towards arcadey. It kind of feels like we're playing Project Cars 1 or Grid Race Driver in certain cars. It is just very, very twitchy. At high speed, it doesn't really seem to be too much of an issue, but in the low speed, I see people coming off the final chicane at Silverstone. They're just losing the car all the time, going completely sideways. Traction and braking don't seem to be too difficult, but the car just wants to over-rotate, spin all the time. Yeah, it just doesn't look very satisfying to play, and it seems to be rewarding drivers who are being super, super aggressive with the inputs. And my theory is that they're just trying to create a handling model that makes it very easy for the casual player to play, because most casual players, they probably aren't going to understand the true fundamentals of being super smooth, less is more. A lot of people think more is better, and if you're driving that way with this new game, supposedly how it is right now, it is going to make you faster. So you're going to have to learn how to drive. If you're a competitive driver or an experienced driver during real race cars or the F1 game for a number of years, you're probably going to have to be driving it very, very differently to what kind of naturally comes to you. But of course you can get used to these things in time, but from first impressions it looks incredibly arcadey. And what do you think they should do? Because for me, I think, when casual players, people who maybe not at the top potential, that top 1%, they might enjoy it at first, but when you get close to the limit, that's why I feel this game is going to be very unsatisfying to play. And that was the biggest issue of F122 for me. Minus the bugs and other things going on, the handling was just absolutely awful to play. And again, this game feels like it's basically a patch of F123. Some additions to the tracks like Spa, Silverstone, Qatar are really nice to see and stuff as well, but this is why I have been pretty negative for the last few years and haven't really been that excited from each release of the game. And I'm actually glad other content creators are now doing the same, even if they're on good terms with Codemasters and have these NDAs and everything like that. I'm really glad, because there has to be a change in the future. There really, really does. And it feels like you need to drive like Alonso in this game to be the fastest possible. I guess in terms of positives, I could say, from what I've seen, obviously the ERS modes you can change in the race, kind of like 2018, and that's good. I don't know if this is really a positive. It might even be a bit of a con, but the curbs are much easier to use. I know curbs are annoying at times, but corners such as Imola and Qatar now, or Jeddah, sorry, the curbs are basically just being completely flattened, and that kind of, again, it links me towards the theory that our Codemasters EA, they're just trying to make the game as accessible and easy as possible for new players, casual players, to make the most money possible. And that's really the gist I've had of this whole F124 really build up so far, with the marketing, the teaser trailer, the announcement trailer. It's all about just making as much money as possible. And it's not just EA and Codemasters. Many other companies and businesses are sadly doing it in this day and age. Yeah, it is just really, really disappointing to see. But apparently this is meant to be a realistic and step forward in the handling. And myself and many other content creators now actually speaking out about this. What we're receiving, I don't think, is really good enough. And no, obviously I'll be playing the game myself on Monday, giving my thoughts. I'll be making the videos and everything myself, but it feels like the marketing, the fancy lingo and the words are becoming very, very old now. Year upon year, like I said, I'm just looking forward to less and less of the release of the new game. And yeah, I don't want to be critical. It's in my interest for this game to be good. This is what I love to do. I've loved racing my entire life, and I feel like paying £80 each year for basically a patch upgrade, which is not really feeling like an upgrade, is just not really acceptable anymore. But from next week, from Monday, I will be doing daily videos with the hot map search, tutorials, online gameplay, everything you need to try and become faster and help you enjoy this game to the highest level of your potential. So make sure you like the video, subscribe. I've actually opened my coaching slots for F124, which I will be starting in mid-June. So if you would like a one-to-one session with me, I coach on all platforms as well. Make sure you hit that join button, because I will be doing many open lobbies. Hopefully many of these will be live streamed next week. So if you'd like a priority access into my open lobbies, make sure you do hit that join button and then join my Discord following the instructions. Also, receive a discount on one-to-one coaching if you do hit that join button. Let me know what you think of this with the handling and all the footage you've seen so far. And I'll be catching you very, very soon. Peace.